Kakadosh Boker Tov. We're continuing with the halachot of the 3 weeks. Today we're going to speak about Tisha B'Av and the Shalosh Ta'aniyot. We know that if a woman is pregnant or if she's feeding, so then she is exempt to fast on the 3 Ta'aniyot, and they're not allowed to be machmir on themselves, and she's only obligated to fast on Tisha B'Av, which means that she would be exempt whether it was going to be on Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, Tanit Esther, Asra B'Tevet, Tzom Gedalia, all these different types of fasts, she would be exempt if she's pregnant or if she's feeding. However, though on Tisha B'Av, she would be obligated. First question that we ask ourselves is, when exactly is she considered pregnant? Because we know that usually in the time of the Gemara, whenever we're talking about pregnancy, it's always Hukaru Bara, which means after 3 months. What about now? Now again, also the menikot is very simple because a woman that she's feeding. So therefore she's actually feeding before, which means that she's actually feeding the child. Now what exactly is this halakha of mubarot? So Rav Ovadia Yosef here brings down that to do with Agdarat Muberet, he says the Gemara Masechet Nida says that it's Mishukaru Bara, because that in itself is considered, right, that she's going to already start, whether it's going to be, she has zakaot or all these types of, we're going to say body changes in herself, that she has a very big weaknesses, and therefore she's going to be exempt. However, though, afterwards he brings down that especially after 40 days, it should have that's based upon a Gemara Masechet Berachot. Why? Because once you have Yetzirat Ubar, which means that the fetus completes after 40 days, that's when all of a sudden now it has the movements and the brain is already starting to function. So therefore, once you have this, which is after 40 days, it would start. But now what about nowadays also to do with fasts? So the Yavetz brings down that if she feels weakness, so even before 40 days, she can be mekel, because at the beginning she's even chalush bioter, she's even weaker, and any type of a change would actually make it worse, and it would actually put her and the sakana to the child, and therefore you're going to be mekel, niskaru beli safek, you actually get more reward, which means here it's not that you should be stringent, you should be more lenient, and that's what the Yavetz says. So Rav Ovadia says that's also the Shut Ma'aril, to do with a woman that she's doing teshuvah, she's doing ta'aniyot because of teshuvah, but he says you shouldn't be machmir on this, right? And then he comes and he says also the kreti pleti sideh tara in Yoradiyah, the bitche teshuvah, and he says, you could differentiate between ta'anit and that which is written over there to do with ilchon nidah. He says, nevertheless, me'ikar adin you could be mekel, like the Gaon Yavetz and Achronim, and that is the psak of the Mishnah Brura, which means that it comes out that even though usually when we talk about pregnancy, it's talking about after 3 months. Here, 40 days, and even before 40 days, once a woman is pregnant, she could be mekel to do with fasting on the 3 ta'aniyot, which is again going to be Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, right? It's going to be Asra B'Tevet or Tzom Gedalia. Now, what about this year, Tisha B'Av? Because we just mentioned that on Tisha B'Av, she's obligated to fast. This year, right, when they're going to be permitted, right, they're actually allowed to actually eat even in the morning, right? Which means, forget even before Tisha B'Av, on a normal fast, for example, Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, whether this year was pushed off, so it's also more lenient because it was on Shabbat and it was pushed off to Sunday. But even if it was going to be a normal year, they do not need to fast whatsoever, right? However, though, here he comes and he says, also the same halacha would apply to Tisha B'Av, right? That's going to be pushed off, that they're actually allowed to even start we're going to say eating on the Motzei Shabbat, which means if they're going to come and they're going to eat throughout the Tisha B'Av. So for example, this year it's pushed off, they are exempt. So you have a Muberet Umeneket, she's exempt from fasting on Tisha B'Av this year. Why? Because it was pushed off. But now, maybe you're going to tell me, okay, fine, so maybe she's only going to do the Avdalah and she's only going to eat during the day. Since if anyway she's going to eat and she would need Avdalah, so therefore they could do Avdalah on Motzei Shabbat normally. And then it's even brought down that they could actually even have from the wine of the Avdalah. However, though, even if they're going to eat on Tisha B'Av or the other fast, they shouldn't come and enjoy themselves and start eating delicacies, because at the end of the day, it's still a day of what we're calling mourning. So therefore, they should actually come and try, right, to be very careful to do with how exactly are they going to eat, that they should only eat what they need for what's called necessity. Anything which is going to be excessive or anything which is going to be that is stam for tavot, for desires, that they should try to resist from in order that they should also partake and part of the fasting, not because they are fasting, because they're not going to fast, but in the actual concept of what it is. Now he says, Amapelet, which is a woman that has a miscarriage, is like a yoledet, is like a woman that just gave birth. And therefore he brings that over here. It's the same halakha that they would be exempt for the 3 fasts. And again, that we just mentioned now, that if it's going to be exempt for the 3 fasts, so this year you're also going to be exempt for Tisha B'Av, because since Tisha B'Av is pushed off, so therefore also they're going to be exempt from Tisha B'Av as well.